proud of what they've done. They care and love Boo, and want him to be his best too. And through this, I think Boo sees that as well. And at the end of the day, us collectively continuing to grow here through the course of training camp. I will be the one that will take questions on Boo. And that's today, and here throughout the beginning part of training camp as well. But proud of how our team has handled those things, and ultimately we'll handle those things internally. I'm not going to get into details on everything. So excited to roll. You guys are going to get a chance to hear from some of our staff and players today, but everybody in the building's ready to go for tomorrow. So with that, let's open it up.
Questions? We have mics on each side. We'll start with Brent up front.
Yeah, Josh, how much dialogue over this month have you had with Boo, and kind of what's your policy with players not being around for, quote, summer volunteer workouts? Do you have a set policy on if they go work out with their trainer or somebody else? How does that work?
Yeah, and end of the day, it's a requirement to be here, be a part of what we're doing. There's a lot of information out in the world. Some of it's correct, some of it's not. I'm not going to address everything. Over the last week, we're disappointed with how some things were handled. At the end of the day, you have a conversation. What does it look like moving forward? And that's all parties. That's our leadership council, Boo, and our staff. And so it's not about what yesterday was. It's about today, and we'll see as we continue to progress where that leads us.
So have you talked to him before today?
Yes, I had.
So you've been in contact with him the last week or so?
Parts of it, yes. I'm not saying every day, but yes.
John, then Ben.
Yeah, Josh, do you always consult with your leadership council when you're making a decision involving discipline a player?
I think always is probably a stronger word than I would say always. My wife would tell you would get me into trouble. But I think each situation is unique, and I think, in leadership, it's important that you step back and, try to look at it from different angles as well. Ultimately, in this case, we had, conversations with multiple parties.
So you could say sometimes or often?
Yeah.
Ben.
Josh, what gives you confidence that your leadership council will welcome back Boo with open arms, and that his return won't impact the locker room or the leadership or your culture?
Yeah. Well, you guys on leadership council, I know it's true in the locker room too. They care about the person, care and love for him, and want him to be his best. I think that starts in life, through the conversations we've had with him, and then that parlays itself onto the football side of it as well. So I'm not worried about the chemistry. At the end of the day, there's standards that we all have to meet, and that's everybody in the building. When somebody fails in that, whether they get another chance or not, that's, each situation is different. But ultimately, Boo's got to meet those standards here as we move forward.
Elliot and Carlos.
What's one thing you want to see out of your team in this fall camp heading into week 1 in Atlanta, and then an SEC looming game up ahead first?
Yeah, I'm not sure how many days it is until kickoff, but it's going to approach fast. Being where your feet are at, I think is really important here through training camp. And through that, if you are where your feet are at, you're going to drain everything out of it. That's on the practice field. It's in the meeting room. It's recovery. All the things that ultimately go into them being their best. And collectively, if you do that, you're going to take big steps forward. And every team in the country at this point's got to take big steps. And I'm excited to start that on-field part of that tomorrow with our guys.
Coach, first of all, it's nice to meet you. Carlos Lopez with Vamos Vols. This will be the second year that we have Spanish coverage of our beloved Vols. Yeah. We already have such a passionate fan base, but what does it mean to now have Spanish-speaking families all over Latin America and first-generation people here in the United States connecting with our team in their native language?
Yeah, you've done a great job of that for a long time, but I think it's an opportunity for us to continue to build our brand and to continue to expand. our reach as an entire athletic program, and then certainly on the football side of it this fall too. So excited that we have an opportunity to do that.
Josh, with the quarterback competition, is there a preferred way you would like this to go? And not picking a guy, but like the timeline of when you know and when you feel confident, at least privately, about who the guy is. Would you like that to be sooner than later?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. That gives you more time to build, continuity, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, I think it's really important. You guys heard me say it at media days that somebody's got to go earn it, and it's not in one throw. It's not on one day. The consistency of who you are, the growth of who you are, and how you continue to grow from practice to practice. I think it's important the staff sees that, but most importantly, I think your players see that as well.
Coach, one final clarification for me on the Boo situation. When you say has things to do to get back, does that mean he will be in meetings, not be allowed to be in meetings? He'll be at practice, he won't be at practice?
I'm not going to get into all the details of everything. He's here, he's with us, and each day we'll figure out what comes next.
Coach, on the quarterbacks, having played the position yourself, how much does that inform how you handle a competition where it's kind of wide open? I mean, being transparent with your guys, how much do you value that?
Well, I think the communication side of it, it impacts it a great deal, whether that's, me as a player going through different quarterback battles and, at different stages of my career having quarterback battles. But the playing experience, the transparency of it, communicating together with all of those guys, when they got back in the summer, they understood this isn't something that's going to be decided in June. It's not going to be decided in July. You got to go earn it and take it during the course of training camp. Everything that you do is a part of who you are as a player, but also how you're impacting and ultimately making the 10 guys around you better too. And, as we go through training camp, those conversations will be had with, collectively the group as well, so that they can see that it's transparent, it's real, and there's no misinformation.
Josh, when was the last time you had a quarterback competition and a center competition going on at the same time? Because those two people start with the ball in their hands to start every play. So when was the last time you kind of had that? And when you've had a quarterback competition, as an old quarterback yourself, not to say these guys are adversarial, but do you kind of like them to not be super chummy and have a competitiveness there between the two?
I think it's important that they're competitive with themselves first and foremost. Are you competing with the guys in the room? Absolutely. How that drives you on a day-to-day basis, I think is the most important thing. That's true June and July. It'll be true during course of training camp. I think it's really important that collectively you do it in the right manner, where you're helping, encouraging, and supporting each other too in a positive way. I think that's important for your team to see, but ultimately the strength of one position can never be one guy. We've sat in rooms with, 3 guys that ultimately went on to the NFL all at one time, that were at one point competing for a job. So I think it's important that they handle it the right way. These 2 guys with George, Joey, and Merck, all 3 of those guys have done an elite job of competing and pushing each other throughout the course of the summer. They've grown. They're at different stages in their career as far as eligibility, years on task inside of our program, what we're doing offensively. They've helped each other through the journey of the summer, and I think that's going to be important as we get into training camp too.
We'll go to the back with Casey, then Kate.
Anything that you've really seen click about George and Jake with there being a quarterback competition this year that maybe wasn't present in how they approached practice, approached the day last year, with kind of knowing that they would have that backup role?
Say that one more time, just the names on the front end, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. George and Jake, anything that you've seen from them with them knowing this year is a quarterback competition, whereas last year they were more, solidified in the backup role. Anything you've seen stand out because of having that opportunity?
Well, George just getting here, in December for playoff prep, leading into spring ball. I thought those guys collectively as a group, as a pair, supported each other through the learning curve, and that can be, mistakes that you made when you first got to campus. It can be on the detail of a play. You can see those guys helping each other inside of the meeting room, asking a lot of questions. So I think that's been really positive, and just want to continue to see that as we go through training camp.
As Jermod McCoy makes his way back, have you noticed that he's doing anything special or different to make up for the fact that he is limited coming back from that injury, and is there a timetable?
No timetable on him. There's benchmark things that he's got to accomplish within our training room to move on to the next phase of it. He's handled it really well, from the very beginning, just his mindset and how he's approached every single day. He's done a really good job throughout the course of the summer. Periodically you can see his drills, movement, explosive type drills that he's doing change, based on his rehab protocol, and he's handled it extremely well. And, as we go through training camp, there will be a progression. How his body responds to some of those things will kind of dictate the time period of when he's available for us.
Josh, at the center position, how valuable do you view experience in the list of traits that you're looking for to fill that spot?
The priority checklist? I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you to restate what you just said on the back end.
Yeah, for the center position, how valuable among the traits for a center do you view experience?
Yeah, I don't think you can solely look at the experience of the player. Otherwise, your young guys are never going to get an opportunity to get any experience. The ability to communicate at a really high level, get all 5 guys on the same page, pass protection, run game, the ability to snap it accurately and efficiently, the ability to play with fundamentals and technique. End of the day, offensive line, your center, but you got to get the best 5 guys on the field that are going to go operate as one, and that's what we got an opportunity to do. We got competition, and I'm looking forward to see that unfold as we get started.
Saying on the offensive line, looking at Lance Hurd, where is he physically, mentally, everything now compared to this time last year, and how important is he for you, your lone returning on the offensive line?
Yeah, a lot different physically, just in what his body looks like. Move full times early in the season, training camp and early part of the season. I think that limited his ability to grow as a really young player who had only had one fall before he had gotten here. He wasn't a mid-year enrollee either. I think all of that has led to him really growing throughout the course of spring. He's done a great job during the course of the summer, and now we got to go take it to the field here in fall.
Coach, in light of Jermod's situation on the other side, you got Ricky. What kind of offseason have you seen him have, and what kind of jumps can players take going from their first season as a starter to second season when they try to improve?
Yeah,
so
Ricky did a lot of really good things last year at a really high level. Physically, has done a good job of continuing to add weight to his frame. The detail of his fundamentals, technique, and then understanding of our scheme has continued to jump. I expect him to play at a really high level, and obviously we got some competition on the back end as well, and excited to see that unfold.
Josh, is there still a chance that Boo would be used on offense, or his off-season situation, does that affect that possibility?
Yeah, we're going to take it slow here in the beginning, and we'll figure out where we're at as we get deeper into camp.
Hey, Josh, Andrew Smith, Johnson City Press. Back on the offensive line, just how have you seen that position group kind of mesh and grow throughout the summer, not even just with the center position, but with all 5 guys?
Yeah, influx of some high school guys into the offensive line room, a couple of transfers in there, seeing those guys connect and challenge each other inside of the meeting room. And that certainly takes place as you get out on the practice field or in the weight room too. So I think the group has continued to grow close, the connection, the continuity that they have in that room, and that allows you to challenge and demand things of the guys around you too in a positive way. So I think all of those, you've seen a lot of growth from even where we were when we started spring ball, finished spring ball, better leadership inside of that room. So I'm excited to see those guys get on the field and compete here.
Hey, Josh, in this day and age of the transfer portal, NIL and whatnot, in this era, how important is it for you to give guidance to the leadership council, the guys that are seniors and juniors have been around the program, for them to be able to teach these young guys or even the transfers that come in how you guys set the standard, but also trying to engage, bond, build up that camaraderie between teammates?
Yeah, what it takes to be successful on a Saturday afternoon or evening hasn't changed, right? You get between the white lines, the game has not changed. Outside of it, there's been, dramatic changes over the last 4 or 5 years. The standards of who we got to be and how we compete and grow together as a team, that can't change. And that's, earlier on I mentioned just I love the leadership and the accountability piece of what we have inside of our building. The challenge is to continue to grow that through the course of the season. You get into the day-to-day inside of football. Sometimes that can take a step back if you're not intentional on it. I think it's really important as young guys coming into your program. The older guys are essentially being a big brother to those guys and helping them grow and understand what it takes to be successful at this level, what it takes to be a Tennessee Volunteer. I think we've built a group of guys inside of that team room that care about each other.
Josh, with Jamal McCoy's situation, now Boo Carter's situation, can you talk about the value of a guy like Colton Hood? I know he wasn't here in the spring, but what have you seen out of him through summertime when you're able to see these kids now that maybe you weren't 5, 6 years ago with the change of rules that makes you think he's going to be a factor for you one spot or another?
Yeah, he's smart. He's accountable. He's really mature. He's got some leadership traits that I think as he's here will continue to show up more and more. Each day, but each block of our season and ultimately our off season too. He's got position flexibility. He's got great understanding of the game. He retains information really well, and he's played and he's got experience. So he came in here learning what it takes to be a Vol. What does a great teammate look like here? And I'm excited to see him continue to grow on the field and off the field inside of this program.
I'm sure each year has their own identity about 30 days out from the start of the season. What do you think the identity of this team will be by the end, or what do you hope it'll be?
Yeah, leadership, accountability, and then we get to playing, the effort and attitude that we approach every day with, the consistency of ultimately what our fans are going to see on Saturdays. But to do that, you got to be consistent every single day. So that's what I expect from our guys and what I think I'm going to get.
Coach, at receiver, you got some young guys that seem to be super talented, Mike, Staley, and Amari Jefferson. Just what's your confidence level in those guys stepping up?
Wide receiver position or in general? Yeah, young guys don't have time to be young. It's been one of the things that we've talked about as a program since we got back in January. Our coaches are responsible for that, our players are too, guys that are vets inside of those position room. I really like the guys that we have inside of the wide receiver room. That's athletic traits, playmaking ability, their attention to detail. Excited to see that room continue to grow throughout the course of training camp and really through the season as young guys continue to get better.
Thank you, Coach. Coach will be available again after tomorrow's first practice.
Appreciate it.
All right, y'all. So listen, I'm so sorry that we got started with this thing late. I was up here talking since like 12:40. I was literally just talking and talking and talking. Didn't realize that we hadn't actually fully gone live just yet. But either way, Boo Carter is going to be part of this team. If y'all are members on our Patreon, and y'all got to see that first, we shared it with y'all that we felt like that's what was going to be happening. We shared that with people last night. That's a great place, man. If y'all want to get some inside information on our team, join our Patreon, patreon.com/Bluechip Breakdown. And we will also have some things on our, for our YouTube members too. The only difference there is just like on Patreon, we can do some different things, but we'll, do our best to bring very similar content, like with the same info to both of those. But y'all can join our YouTube channel by clicking the join button just below. But with all that being said, I think that it's positive that Boo will be back. Okay, he's gonna have some type of punishment, and we'll see how that looks. For me personally, I say, hey, slap him on his wrist because I'm sure that he's sorry. Let him miss out on ETSU. No reason that he misses out versus Syracuse or versus UGA. But Coach Banks looks like he's gearing up. And so we obviously will be listening to what he has to say. I wonder if he's going to talk about Boo Carter. Probably not, because Coach Heupel already did that. But once he gets done, we'll be coming right back.
Banks will go right into questions. Just raise your hand. Austin?
I just asked Josh about the addition of Colton Hood with Jermod's situation, now Boo's situation. Like, how have you seen him come in? What you've seen out of him this summer? What makes you think he can step right in and be an instant impact guy for you all?
Yeah, we're excited about Hood, to say the least. And I think it just starts with the process. Getting to know him. He's extremely competitive. He's a kid who understands, there's a process to everything that you do, and he's really working at it. So I think he's fit in with our guys in our group. He's super hungry, but he's really smart. And like I said, just the competitive nature that he brings to the room. Obviously he's got to do it here at the University of Tennessee, but based on everything that we've seen this summer, again, how he's fit in with everybody, how hard he's worked, we have no doubt that he'll be able to help us in some capacity.
As a follow-up in the secondary, will you work Hood and Beasley at multiple spots throughout fall camp to try to create depth? How do you kind of manage that room back there now with so many young guys, and then obviously the uncertainty of a couple guys?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things we've prided ourselves in, teaching guys not just how to play defensive back, but, every position, in terms of whether it's a star, whether it's a safety, whether it's a corner spot. So obviously guys have unique skill sets that you try to play to their strengths. You mentioned Beasley, he's definitely had a chance to play some star in the spring. He's also played some safety. We think he's a guy who brings great, versatility to the position. So, but we're mixing a lot of guys there, if we're being honest and being frank. We're excited about, you mentioned Colton Hood, you talk about Jalen McMurray, even William Wright. We've had, numerous guys that have gotten some reps at that spot. So it's our job right now between Coach Martinez, Coach E.T., and those guys to figure out to put the best guys in the best spots, to be the most valuable that they can be to this team.
Coach Bing, back here.
You're usually over here somewhere.
I know.
You're sitting back there. But, okay, yeah.
I got downgraded. So your linebacker position, obviously, with Carter and T-Lander, those are known commodities that you want to take the next step. Pretty young and inexperienced behind that. What do you think of those other guys in that linebacking room?
Yeah, I think the first guy that comes to mind is Edwin Spillman. Spillman had a really good spring for us. He's exactly what we're looking for in terms of, just understanding standards and living by it day, just the way he comes to work every day. Great leadership skills. Another guy, Jordan Burns, who's gotten, significantly better, over the past year and a half. So, we're excited about those guys. Brendan Ames showed some things as well during spring. He's a guy who has great combination of size and athleticism. And then we got obviously a couple young guys between Herman and Pilates. So, yeah, we're obviously going to be young there, but we feel like, from a talent perspective, we're probably even deeper than we've been in the past, just off pure talent.
Adam, then Rob.
When you're talking about moving guys around, as you guys do in the secondary, like, how much movement is too much movement in camp? In other words, when do you need to decide this guy needs to dedicate himself to star or corner or safety?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've obviously had from, right after the season to weightlifting, right before spring ball, you start going through installs and things of that nature. You obviously have spring, then you have the summer ball, and then obviously we're going into fall camp. So, we've had some moments, to be able to teach, and evaluate. Obviously, as the bullets start to fly, as you start to put more on their plate, you get a better idea who can handle what and who obviously needs to be at what position. So I think that's always a work in progress, but we've got some really resilient kids, some extremely smart kids, and very competitive kids. So those guys, want the challenge. They want opportunities to play multiple spots. But again, you know, at some point we'll obviously figure out, you know, who's best at what, you know, and we'll go from there.
You guys obviously had a few key losses up front on the edge, but in this day and age with player movement, is it a luxury to bring back the kind of experience you did in, you know, Bryson, Jackson, you know, Joshua Joseph, those kind of guys?
Yeah, we're excited about them. You know, we feel like we've built a really good culture around here, and, you know, it's refreshing that guys want to be a part of it. You know, our front, you know, we got a lot of guys, you know, that obviously hasn't played a lot, but we do have some key figures that have played a lot of snaps, significant snaps. So, you know, it's up to those guys to continue to, you know, move the needle, so to speak, to bring those other guys along. But, yeah, it's been awesome. But I think that's a tribute to the culture we've built here on defense and, you know, Coach, and obviously what Coach Hype has done, you know, overall as a team.
To the back, Rick, then Paige.
Hey, Tim. It's an exciting time, but it's also a difficult time. As a coach, how do you prepare your guys for the grind of fall camp?
Yeah, we like to think we've been working at it again, you know, since spring ball, you know, understanding what was ahead of us, you know, understanding how fast this thing comes. But it's not hard. Man, these kids love ball. You know, they love football. You know, they're excited about it. They can't wait to get down there. If anything, it's us trying to slow them down a little bit, you know, not trying to get it all done in one day. So, but that's what you want as a coach. You want guys that are eager and excited about the opportunity. But it's been fun. You know, it really is. You know, like I said, we have a really good mix of older guys with a lot of talented young guys new to the program. But, you know, the way these guys have hit the ground running since spring ball, you know, I know they can't wait to get going, and neither can we.
Earlier in the spring, yeah, there we go. Earlier in the spring, Edwin Spillman said that his pass rush and blitzing technique will be special in the fall. How much are you seeing that be confirmed during practice or expectations-wise for the fall?
Yeah. You know, all those backers want to pressure and blitz, so I'm not surprised he said that. It's a lot of them saying the same thing. But, yeah, they'll get their opportunities. You know, we're a pressure team, and, you know, we want athletic linebackers that can win one-on-ones. And, you know, he's definitely worked his tail off during spring, you know, to kind of sharpen some of the technique and the fundamentals that come with being a great pass rusher. So, no, it's exciting. You know, you want guys that believe in themselves and are confident, you know, and obviously, you know, showing it in practice day in and day out, you know, would be the proof in the pudding.
Why do you, back here. Why do you think that Jeremiah and Ariane have been so effective in pushing each other to be better?
Man, those guys are just uberly competitive. You know, they want to win. You know, just watch these young guys, how they've matured over the last couple years. And that's what you want. You want your linebackers to be the tip of the spear, you know, guys that can lead, you know, guys that are high communicators, and both those guys have that. You know, you look at T-Lander, he's a coach's kid. You know, that's what you expected. That's what you expect. You know, obviously with Ariane, the amount of snaps he's played, you know, he's earned that right. So both of those guys have been outstanding since, again, spring ball. And even before that, you know, you talk about the fourth quarter workouts. Those guys have been tremendous leaders and great ambassadors for our program. So I think both of those guys are primed for great years. And, you know, just because of the energy and the work that they put in it, you know, they can't help but lead, and the guys are following.
To the left with Ben and Austin.
Tim, what does Josh Josephs need to do now that he's kind of the old head at that position to take the next step in his career? And with Caleb Herring, what does he need to do to become a more consistent contributor?
Yeah, I think for Josh is just to continue to do what he's been doing. You know, he's been extremely good for us in the run game. When you go back and you watch the cut-ups and you see how valuable he was in the run game, it's, you know, we kind of felt that way, but to get proof of concept is another thing, and he did it in spades for us. I think as he just continues to, you know, be the vocal leader, I think when he got here, you know, I think Josh would tell you, you know, he was quiet, kind of to himself. But you see him being a lot more vocal, a lot more to the point with the younger guys. It's only helped us. You mentioned Caleb Herring. I think for Caleb, it's just staying healthy, you know, and he's worked his tail off to do his part for it. And so far it's been great. So, you know, we feel really blessed to have both of those guys. And, you know, we're clearly expecting big things from both of those guys, high returns.
Tim, when you got here, you inherited a bit of a mess on defense. And statistically, every year you've been better. Last year being the best. What gives you a thought process that this defense can be even better than last year's defense?
Yeah, you know, not to be cliche on you, you know, but we look at every year as a new year, you know, and I think that's why we've been able to build the culture the way we've built it. We don't necessarily talk a lot about what we did last year or where we need to go as a unit, because it's a different team. You know, there are obviously some things that you look at statistically where you can be better, you know, and you ask yourself, is it scheme, is it personnel, you know, how can we be better as coaches? But to a man, those guys understand this is a new year. And I think because we have that starting fresh, starting over, adhering to the process, and working, step by step, day by day to get better, I think that's always helped us, in the way we've been able to grow, just because we know no sacks, no interceptions, no tackle for losses or pay dividends on this year. And those guys understand that, and I think that's why we've been good.
What's the next step for Ricky and as he goes from a first-year starter and now goes to pursue even bigger things?
Yeah, you just watch Ricky's confidence grow throughout the course of the season last year, and it was no different during spring ball. He's got a great quiet confidence about him. It was always a thought that he could do it, but for him to do it and do it at the level he did, I think it only breeds confidence for him. And again, when you play on that back end, confidence is everything, and I think even a younger corner, seeing how he goes about his business has only helped that room. But I think for him, he's gotten a lot stronger. He's really, paid the price in the weight room and off the field with, all the things he needed to do to be a stronger defensive back. And I think you will see, that come to fruition in terms of how he plays. You'll be able to see the strength in which he plays with. But yeah, I think he's just scratching the surface, if I'm being honest. I think he can be even better, and I know he wants to be, and he's continuing to work at it.
I'm curious, now that your culture is established, you have your identity on defense. When you do a self-scout, is it different now than it was year 2 to year 3? And what are you looking for when you did your self-scout? What do you want to improve this year compared to previously?
Yeah, I think for us, when you look at the self-scout, it always comes down to, are we playing winning football? What do we need to do to win? And I think at the end of the day, whether you're talking our first year here or, 3 years after that, we've always tried to play to the strengths of our players first and foremost, put those guys in the best situation to be successful. And as you evaluate it, you ask yourself, did you do that? We felt like we did that in a lot of ways. There are obviously some things we think we can still be better at. Whether you're talking about, 1st and 10 defense, whether you're talking about, continue to be even better in the red zone, because again, as good as you are, when we look at that tape, we're like, man, if we had just executed a little bit better here, we'll be even better. So I don't know that there's some real big action items outside of, just continuing to grow and make sure, again, as we identify who we are from a personnel group. Now the next question is always, well, how do we play to their strengths, put these guys in the best situations to play winning football?
Tim, a lot of turnover at the safety position, but you do bring back Andre, old head in the room. What are your expectations for him, not only on the field, but leading some underclassmen that are going to have to step up and play?
Yeah, I know we mentioned Ariane and mentioned T-Lander. I put Dre in that same conversation. He's been awesome, from a leadership perspective. He's definitely been a voice in that room. He's got great work ethic. I think his body has changed. I think he's gotten stronger, or I know he's gotten stronger, and, we'll see him continue to play with even greater confidence. Last year, I think was his first year, fully starting the whole year, and he did a lot of really good things for us. But, as we watch the tape and some of the private conversations we've had, I think he understands there's still some meat on the bone and some things that he can do better. But where he is right now today as a leader has been outstanding. He's, scheme-wise, he's a kid that can digest it, and be able to articulate it. So, he's one of the guys you can kick the scheme around to. And if he doesn't understand it, then it's a good chance nobody will understand it. So he's kind of been the sounding board for us as a coaching staff and the back end.
Sticking at safety, what kind of growth have you seen from Idris over his time here over the last couple of seasons as he goes to maybe a bigger role this year?
Yeah, really, really good. Idris has always been a 100-mile-an-hour guy, great physicality. He's a guy that's selfless, that, again, embodies what we want to be on defense. So, we're excited. He had a really good spring for us. It was consistent. He worked on some of the things that he felt like he needed, that we identified that he needed to work on coming out of last fall. And he addressed it, so we're really excited about him, like we really are. I put him, I think he'll be what Dre is, in terms of being a guy that's super sharp, that's able to communicate the defense. We think he's cut from that same cloth. He just needs the opportunities. And, as long as he continues to do what he did in the spring, he'll have those opportunities.
You touched on Ariane and sort of the way he's approached things. Anything you've seen from his game, since the spring and just throughout the offseason in terms of how he can kind of take the next step as a linebacker, or anything that you think he might have improved on?
Yeah, I mean, I think just, again, being more vocal, not being afraid to hold guys accountable has been awesome. That can be extremely uncomfortable for people in general, and when you're talking about young people, but he's really embraced that role. I think his body, look, his body has changed a little bit. He's noticeably bigger and stronger, so we're definitely looking forward to seeing, a guy with that type of instincts, that type of grasp of the defense, and now that size and combination of power, just kind of seeing what it looks like when he puts it all together this fall. So I think he's in a really good place for us right now, and like I said, we're expecting really big things from him.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it.
All right, y'all. So coming right back. So Joey Halsley is going to be next. And whenever I started this thing up and I was pretty much talking to myself, I showed y'all the whole schedule. But Coach Heupel, he already spoke, talked a lot about just like overall team stuff. I like what I heard from Coach Banks. Sounds like he's very confident with this team. He's got some gadget pieces. He talked about like with Andre Turntine. If he can't grasp it, then maybe nobody's going to be able to grasp it with the different coverages. So that's one of the things for us to look out for because we do have so much youth. You have to maybe try to dumb some things down. But that's why we feel like maybe man could be the answer because we have guys who can definitely do that. But the secondary is really deep. I think that that linebacker room's deep. Feels like the coaching staff thinks that same thing. What does the pass rush look like? Can we close? That's going to be one of the questions. But let's listen to Coach Halsley here.
Raise your hand and we will get a mic. Start with that.
Joey Aguilar threw 14 interceptions last year. You guys never have issues, any of your quarterbacks throwing picks. Why do you think Joey threw that many picks last year, and have you addressed it with him of any concerns?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of that comes from what we can do here scheme-wise, getting him ready to go as far as fundamentals, eye placement, getting involved in our scheme. Because it's never just a plug and play with an older guy like that. A lot of people think you just drop a guy in and he's played so he knows how to do it. It's all going to be how does he go through this offense, how does he adjust to our fundamentals, the way we teach it, the way we use our eyes, the way we know our protections, and his ability to dive into that and his want to dive into that has been awesome. So don't foresee any issues there, but obviously that's why we're going into fall camp and we got to go see the actual proof of concept there.
Being in LA front row here.
Joey, what have you noticed about Joey's film study habits as he's gotten here and just kind of how he's gotten to work with his teammates and the chemistry, that aspect of himself as a leader?
Joey's been high end at that since he's gotten here. Ever since he got here in late May, he didn't start by starting where everyone else was. He went back and did every single spring install that our entire team went through. He did that on his own in about 4 days. Embraced it really well, went out and walked through it all on the field at a high level. Has been going through summer ball the same exact way, so there hasn't been any fall off there. And then he's done a great job of making sure that he gets around his teammates because he is new. Taking the O-line out to dinner, taking the wide receivers out to dinner, and him and Jake do that together a lot, actually. You'll see them all together out there and making sure that more than anything that this is a tight-knit unit and that whoever steps on the field for that first game is well earned it and has their teammates back.
There's so much youth on your side of the offense. Just have you seen any trouble with installs, and what's your take on the young talent?
I think we're a very talented young room. I do agree that there's not a lot of guys that have ton of time in this offense. We're very talented at the wide receiver position. It's why Coach Hype sets this up the way he does, though, where we go through pre-spring, get through all the installs that way. We go through spring ball, then you go through summer install. So by the time you get to fall camp, you're on your 4th time running through the offense. So now it's less about learning what to do, how to do it, and more about like what's the way to actually go play this game at a high level. So the way we go through our off season has allowed our young guys and our new guys a chance to really step in and show what they can do and not be, slow out there on the field because they're wondering what they're supposed to do.
To the back with Rick and Payne.
Coach, I was going to ask you about Joey's integration into the program, but you kind of touched on that. Oh, back here, sorry.
there you are. Yeah.
You touched on that. But with a guy that's new to the program and 2 younger quarterbacks, how instrumental will the run game and that facet of the offense be helping to bring those guys along, especially here in fall camp?
Yeah, I think whenever you're introducing a new quarterback into the system, however it may be, the run game is always big time, and we've been able to run the ball at a high level here, with Dylan Sampson winning the Offensive Player of the Year in the SEC, led the SEC in rushing last year. It's something that since we've been here, we've decided to hang our hat on being able to run the ball at a high clip, so we don't see that taking any step back this year. And yeah, like to your point, if you can run the ball at a high level, it makes a lot of other things a lot easier on the guy catching the snaps back there.
For Jake Merklinger, after the spring game, if there was a point where he could improve, it was maybe about protecting himself in space and then understanding like defensive disguises and coverages. Have you been able to see any growth in maybe those departments leading up to fall camp?
Yeah, that's a lot of times young quarterbacks, the protecting themselves thing is you're running around in a red jersey and that red jersey comes off pretty quick. So that's just a thing for all young quarterbacks that like to run. He's a tough, competitive, smart kid. So he's not scared to put his body on the line for the team. He's going to need to do that in a smart way, just like any quarterback will, because in this conference, taking 15, 20 hits a game is not the way to play an entire season. But doing that, and then, it's just reps. For guys that haven't been here for a long time, and, I'm going to include him in that. He's been here for 1 year. Like, it's just reps and reps. And when you're playing against a Tim Banks defense, you're seeing every structure of every front, of every background, of every coverage. So it's a really good learning tool for our guys. It's like swinging with a weighted bat playing against our defense all fall camp, that you see everything under the sun that you could imagine. And now you go into game week and you're like, all right, now it's reducing down to this is what we're expecting. So don't foresee any issues with him on that end.
Rob, then Eric.
Coach, at quarterback, you played it and coached it a long time. When you have a wide open competition, how quickly, is there a sense of urgency to go from 3 to 2 to finding a starter? And are you totally adverse or open to having it drag into the season?
No, I think whenever you're going through a quarterback competition, the first thing is that the team, the full team, but mostly the offensive unit, has to understand that this is a true competition, and whoever steps on the field with them will have earned that job. So that's why you've never heard Coach Heupel or myself saying, by this date, we'll announce a guy. Someone's got to take it. Someone's got to step up and take it and prove it, and there's multiple ways to do that. Obviously, as soon as you can get to that guy and let your guys start rallying behind one person and understanding their skill set and tailoring the offense to them, the better. But we can't be in a rush to do that, because if it doesn't present itself organically, then you're just going to be trying to put a square piece in a round hole.
Joey, you look up front, Lance Hurd, a lot of turnover there. He's your lone returning starter. What is your expectation for him, and how different is he now than he was maybe this time last year?
Yeah, the thing about Lance is he's shifted from learning the offense first time in it to being a guy that's extremely comfortable in it, and now he's just focusing on his style of play and getting to do all the little tricks and the trades of playing O-line at a high level in this conference. So we expect him to take a huge jump this year. He's a very talented young man. He's got the size, the foot speed, the length, everything that you want in a left tackle. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he takes the field this fall, completely healthy, ready to go, and take that game to the next level.
Ben and Casey.
For Ethan Davis and Chris Brazel, what do they need to do this camp to take the next step and maybe solidify their spot on the depth chart?
Yeah, I think both those guys you talk about are highly, highly talented young men. There's no doubt about that whenever you see them, even go through summer, winter workouts, the way they can move and run and jump. It's been about, the challenge has just been be consistent with it. You can't flash one day and then come back the next day. We got to be very comfortable when we put you on the field. What's the product we're going to get? So for those guys, it's been about being consistent. They've both put 2 really good off seasons together where we feel very confident with them going into fall camp.
Coach, you've said it, Heupel said it too, the need for one of the quarterbacks to prove themselves for you. What are you looking for to, have that confidence that you found your guy?
Yeah, first and foremost, you got to play this game in this offense with an aggressive nature. I think a lot of times the mistake quarterbacks make in a competition is they try not to lose it. They try just to not make a mistake. We want our guy to walk the line between being extremely aggressive but not reckless at all. Reckless is just throwing the ball up for grabs. Aggressive is driving a ball into a tight window. So we want our guy to be aggressive. We want him to be smart, and we want him to operate this offense. It's not just about who throws the football the furthest or the hardest. It's about who can operate this offense that when we take the field gives us a chance to win, whether that's them carrying the football, them getting to their checkdowns, them making big plays down the field. However it presents to that individual skill set, it's them doing that at an extremely high level to where we say that's the guy that gives us the best chance to be up +1 at the end of a ball game.
Coach, going back to the run game, you talked about how you don't want to take a step back, right? Last summer we were talking about Dylan Sampson taking that role, obviously. He took that role very well. Now, what have you seen from Deshaun and Peyton that gives you confidence that they can take that load?
Yeah, and to your point, every year it's been, how are you going to replace this guy? How are you going to replace this guy? How are you going to replace this guy? It speaks to the scheme that we've put in place, but also how these young men work. We've got a lot of young talent in that room Like they've completely reshaped their bodies. They look like what they're supposed to look like taking the field. So we feel like whoever comes on the field for us at the running backs position, and as you guys know, it typically hasn't just been one guy. There's been a main guy, but there's 2 or 3 guys playing every single ball game that as a group, that team can go out there and we don't expect the production in that running back room, not from one man, but from that running back room to take a step back at all.
Coach, with the launch of Vamos Vols, God has blessed us to be able to reach so many Latin American countries. But for our fans online and everywhere, is there a moment here in your time at Tennessee that you think captures the heart of Tennessee football?
The biggest thing that I can speak to, my mind went straight to it when you said it, was our first year here, or second year, excuse me, when we're having the quarterback competition. It's Hendon and Joe, and Joe wins the job. Hendon never takes a step back. He never pouts. He just keeps doing his thing. Joe gets injured. Hendon comes in, never looks back. Joe doesn't leave. Joe doesn't jump ship. He stays. He gets his opportunity, and then he goes and plays. And you got 2 guys that competed against each other for the starting job. They both took turns winning it. They're both still best friends, and they're both playing in the NFL. That is the culture. That is the locker room. That is the expectation of this program.
Joey, talking about that competition between Joe and Hendon, both those guys had been in competitions to win jobs when they competed with each other here. You now have a couple quarterbacks who have never been in a competition as young guys, and Joey. How do you manage this competition with guys who have never experienced something like this before? Is there any difference?
Yeah, in a way, I actually had that conversation this morning with the guys. It's how we're going to go about our business. We all need to be, there's not enough reps to go around that everybody can get every look they need. So we got to be able to talk about each other's reps. We got to be able to have conversations in the meeting room, and nobody's trying to cut the other guy down, and nobody's getting in their feelings about when we're talking about their rep, whether it be positive or negative. If we'll hold to that, and we'll go about our business understanding that we are going to compete fiercely amongst each other, but the team is still first, then we'll be in a really good spot coming out of fall camp. But to your point, there's 2 guys that haven't done it, and they got to go and, you've heard Coach Hype say it for almost a year now, the young guys don't have time to be young. It's very true in that room. You have to handle your business with a maturity like a professional when you step in this building, not just on the field, but in that meeting room as well with the guys, that we have the main goal in mind. Yeah, I'm trying to get on the field, but the team is of the primary importance.
Coach, what are some of the key things, ingredients, and how you guys can maybe get more explosive plays offensively this year?
That's been the entire focus of the offseason is when people are playing really, really soft, dropping 8 in coverage, how do we keep being explosive in the passing game? And that's why, once again, we ran the ball the way we did last year, but it's not going to be that we're going to just say that that's par for the course now. The entire focus of this offseason is how do we get our playmakers in space with the ball in their hand where they can run and do what we've recruited them here to do. So I feel like we've made some changes. We've done some things differently, but we're never going to lose sight of who we are, which is to be extremely aggressive with how we call it, to push the tempo, to make people play in space. But what are the 1 or 2 little different things that we can do that help free people up? And when people are playing really, really soft and saying, all right, you're not going over the top today, what are we going to do to attack that and not let them set the directive of the game? Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. We'll have players here.
Sorry, y'all. All right, so my bad. I was sitting there talking that whole time. All right, so again, really, all that I was saying there is that I think that was very well said about by Coach Halsley at the end about how teams were playing us and having some answers to it. So if we have those answers, if we have those counters to what teams were doing previously, then we're going to be perfectly fine. There's nothing for us to have to worry about, because I think that, that was the biggest problem for us last season. So can Joey Aguilar operate it? Yes. Can Merck do it? Can GMAC do it? Yes. Can the offensive line hold up? I think, yeah, even better. Can the wide receivers operate there? Yeah, if you're going to get your playmakers the football out in space, that's really all that matters. And, we have guys who can do all those things. So I'm just not concerned. For those of y'all that might have missed it, I'm sure that you probably heard it at this point, that Boo Carter will be back. Okay, so that was one of the big things. And it sounds like they're going to be dealing with that. They're not going to put it out publicly what they're going to be doing with Boo, but he is going to be part of this team in 2025. Talking about the quarterback competition, some of my biggest takeaways is that they're saying, hey, this is a real competition. I think that that's very wise because you don't want to undermine some of those other players, right? Like if it's because well, at least for me, I'll just speak for myself. I feel like Joey's probably in the best spot to be able to win this job. But that's not to say that Merck can't win it. That's not to say that GMAC can't win it. And it's also not to say that we will need those guys probably at some point. So you have to keep them, fighting hard, getting better, and just like keep them focused on this team. And I think that as long as we do that and, we keep on pushing players, we're going to be perfectly fine. Let me try to get to this. So y'all were talking about me being muted. Hey, thank y'all so much. Anytime that something goes wrong, y'all do not be shy about letting me know because we obviously want for y'all to be able to hear us and see all the stuff that we're putting up. But yeah, it's been kind of crazy, kind of going back and forth through screens today. But either way, man, what are y'all's thoughts on this? That's something that we could talk about here briefly because I think that the players might speak. I'm not going to be covering that in this live stream, but I think that them speaking, that might be coming up here pretty shortly. We can all, just kind of like watch that separately. Might come back and talk about it. But do y'all have any thoughts, any questions, just kind of like coming out of this press conference with all of our with our, three main coaches, right? I thought that there were some great things that Coach Banks said too. I think he's very confident. Running back competition, how does that look? P and I have been very vocal saying that, man, we got 5 guys inside of that room that you got to love. People don't too much talk about Justin Baker, but he is a dog. And it's time to show and prove. So much talk from, whoever it is, right? People who might have some inside information, people who maybe saw practice, whatever. I just think that all of that talk kind of goes out the window. It doesn't matter, which it did last season, shouldn't matter. It's about showing up, probably early on Wednesday morning and who looks the best and who can kind of carry that throughout all of fall camp. We have a ton of talent on this team, a lot more than what we've had previously. But let me see what people are saying here. All right, so Razor Trader saying that he doesn't usually comment on videos, but I want to thank you so much for your daily Tennessee video. Hey, thank you for that, man. Thank you so much for that. And this right here from Big Dogs Gotta Eat saying what was nice to hear the Boo situation is mostly, yeah, man, for sure. Was getting tired of that drama. Yeah, man. So hopefully that story just kind of like dies down. That's what I'm hoping. And whatever it is that players have to do, I don't even know if necessarily Boo would be the only person who has to do some extra work. You know what I'm saying? Just to get back into the good graces of this team. I don't know. And I don't know, is it the whole team that maybe felt some type of way about Boo, or is it just individual players? I mean, I'm going to just tell you this, and this is just something that P and I was talking about this yesterday. If it came down to like a team vote, right, if the players are voting on, hey, how much time is Boo going to be missing? If I'm Coach Heupel, if whoever's saying, hey, we want him to miss the first, 3, 4, 5 games, I say, hey, you know what? We're going to switch it up, buddy. You need to be off this team because you don't want to win bad enough. And I mean, that's just me kind of like outside looking in. But yeah, I mean, you should want to have the best players on your team there with you. Now, can people mess up? Yeah. Is that bad? Yeah. But does it mean that we're just going to, shoot our own selves in the foot because somebody wasn't perfect? If that's the case, then we wouldn't have a daggone football team. So that's just kind of like where I'm coming from, not to stand up for anybody, but to stand up for the whole team. It should be about winning. And that's something that I heard all these coaches talking about too. It's like, man, look, we don't care if we got to run the football, so many times. We don't care if we have to, how the structure of this defense looks. It's about what is our personnel fit, what fits our personnel and what gives us the best chance to win on Saturdays and any other day that Tennessee is going to be playing. That's the bottom line. Can we stay safe? Can we stay healthy? And can we go win daggone ball games? Can we style while we're doing it? That should be what the goal is. It's about winning championships, and all that other stuff really don't too much matter. I mean, not to me personally, but yeah, I would say that the biggest thing heading into fall camp for me is just about, can we get healthy and then can we stay healthy? That's always number one for me. And I'll be doing a whole bunch of praying, okay? But I think that we do a really good job of managing these players' workloads. You know what I'm saying? It's about building things up and just working smart, not necessarily overly hard. You know, you have to always work hard, but you need to work smart first. So I think that we do a great job from that standpoint. And now that we have everybody on campus, we can monitor those things much closer. But yeah, I mean, I feel great about this team from top to bottom. Is it going to be perfect? Absolutely not. Do I maybe still have a couple of question marks here and there? For sure. Safety is definitely one of them. You know, I'm really not overly concerned about the quarterback competition. I think that my biggest concern outside of the on the field stuff is could the locker room possibly be split if a guy that the team might like better is not picked to be the starter? You know, like the coaches are going to pick who they like the absolute best for sure. So I mean that's pretty much it. You know, I'm not too much concerned about anything else. But let me get to some more of these. Okay, so. Great to hear that. Yeah. So with the offensive wrinkles, yeah, that's something that we've talked about a lot. It's literally, and we've now heard Coach Halsey and Coach Heupel speak on this, that last season what teams were doing is, hey, we're not going to let you beat us deep. That's what they did. They just played us deep, and they would have one of the safeties or one of the guys that's playing on that third level kind of come down to the box late because of just the way that Tennessee's offense is very, very simple, very basic. And what it did, I think that why it worked so well for, you know, maybe like those first few years is that, number one, teams didn't know how to stop it. Like defenses, there are certain rules and principles that you kind of like have to play by. And this offense makes you do like the totally opposite thing. So once teams figured that out, we couldn't get things going, and we had no answer to it. But now that we have an answer to it, we can still do what we used to do back in 2021, 2022. But adding that new wrinkle, adding some of those wrinkles, and then going tempo with it, with all the different weapons that Tennessee has that can play out in space. I was really happy to hear Coach Halsey talk about that. It's going to be very, very difficult. So I just think that some of the stuff is so scheme-based that it almost, I'm not going to say that it doesn't matter who you have out there, but we have good talent. But it almost doesn't really even matter who you have out there. Like this offensive scheme and system, it started because some of those teams that used to run this, they didn't have the best talent, right? Like they were getting kind of, like second and third tier guys, and they were able to go beat SEC teams in these ball games. Why? Because they weren't used to seeing that. It was more talented teams losing to it. So that's what it was. Now we can have a total full offense that we have answers to everything. So think about the Alabama game back in 2023 when we go down there, we're winning in that first half, and then we look totally different in that second half. Think about Georgia last year. We're beating them, or I think we were tied heading into halftime. Second half, totally different story. It's like that so many times because once teams figure out, hey, this is all we had to do, we had no counter. Now with that counter, I think the Tennessee's offense is going to be great. All right, so let me get to some more of these. Saying great to hear about the scheme. Okay, yeah, for sure. Saying I may have missed it, but did we get okay, yeah. So I don't think that they gave us a real clear-cut timeline, but it's something that I did talk about. I don't know if y'all heard this part or not because I know there was a time when I was talking and I wasn't live, but to me, I think that he's probably going to be back by that Georgia game. That's just for me personally. Now, I've heard some other people say it could be after that. I don't think that we're in that sort of a situation. Now, I don't really have inside information to that, but based off of some of the things that I've heard, understanding how those injuries work, it just feels like he should be ready, unless they say, hey, we're just not going to put you out here. We're just going to give you extra time just for the sake of giving you extra time, which wouldn't make any sense to me. That's just where I'm at with it. I'll see if I can get some information, though. All right, so let's see what else we have. Have a quarterback to push the game within the limits of the scheme, not force mistakes, but take opportunities within the scheme. I think that that's exactly what Tennessee needs. I think that our defense can really carry us. The running game's always there. That's the one thing about Tennessee's scheme. Spreading things out, you really can't stop the run and stop the pass. Last season, like we said, teams wanted to stop the deep passes first, so the running game was pretty much there. I just think that the running game will always be there. Not too much worried about it, so we can lean on our running game. Defense has only been taking more steps forward. I don't see any realistic reasons that we take a step back this season. I think that we'll be perfectly fine as long as we don't have some locker room issues. If the locker room's fine, then that defense is going to eat. So can we come together over the course of fall camp? If all those things happen, which is what Tennessee's done for like the past 2 or 3 seasons now, then all the quarterback has to do is really just manage ball games and make a couple of big-time throws. Don't be scared of that. I'm also happy to hear Coach Halsey say that. Hey, we don't want you out here trying not to mess up, But, you know, if you see it, dude, rock and fire. You know, like, trust yourself. Have some confidence. And, yeah, you're going to throw some picks. But he said basically, like, don't throw stupid picks. You know, like, don't just throw it up into coverage blindly. So can we minimize some of those types of things, especially, I think, with Joey Aguilar? If Tennessee can do that, this team is so much better than people are giving us credit for. If y'all like to bet on this stuff, I don't know what the spread and lines and all that type of stuff is, but I promise you, if the over-under for Tennessee this year is at maybe like 7.5 somewhere. If you can find that, that's easy money, baby. That is easy. Okay. I would say with like 95% certainty, just because things can't happen. But Tennessee's so much better than that. I see us winning at least 9 ball games. Let's see what else we got in here. So I saw the Savion Hyder is getting close with Bryce Underwood and said his, if he commits to Michigan, do we have any running backs for this class? So I don't think that we have any other running backs in this class, right? I think that we're just focusing on one guy because we're still pretty young at that spot. But it's funny that you bring that up because it's something that we talked about on our Patreon. And I was kind of worried about that too, but I also saw where Bryce Underwood commented on it, and he was saying it to Savion like Savion couldn't have known that. So I think that that's just by chance that happened. I will also tell y'all this. For like the past maybe week or so, I've been just thinking to myself, man, I bet you Savion's probably, you know, silently told the coaching staff that he's going to be coming to Tennessee. I've seen that out in some other places, you know. I was number one. I'm one of the people that thinks that if you see or hear something 3 times, then that means that will happen. But you know, I was thinking that, my pops just said it to me randomly like a couple of days ago. And then I've also seen a couple of insiders saying that too. I feel very confident that Tennessee's going to end up landing Savion Hyder. I also feel really good about Tristan Keys. So Moa, it would be huge if we could land them. But this is not a situation for Tennessee that if we don't get Savion, that we have to go add somebody else. There's guys in the in next year's class, 2027. There's like 2 or 3 guys, just in-state players that are really good that Tennessee could land, and we'll be fine moving forward. But yeah, Savion is special. So this one right here saying that ready to see those goalposts come down when Georgia comes in. You know what? That's an interesting point. I'm going to just tell you this. I almost don't even want to give them the satisfaction of us tearing down the daggum goalpost if we beat them. Like, we should beat them and just say, hey, this is just a regular. We expected to beat y'all. We ain't even got to do all that extra stuff, because I do feel like Tennessee's going to win that one too. I think that Georgia's going to be even worse than people think, and Tennessee's going to be even better. And if you think I'm crazy, if this is your first time listening, P and I said the same things last year. Said the exact same things last year. I think that Georgia's trending backwards, and Tennessee is still trending upwards. So that's a huge one. P and I are, we might actually be up there for it. And from my dog, J. Pat, saying first day of school for Savion. Yeah, I think that's really all that was. He just wanted to do it with the, with his classmates there. We saw that last year with several players. I think that David Sanders did it too. So I think that he's already chose his program. Some of the insiders might not tell you that, even if it might not be true. But I think that if it was true, they wouldn't tell you because they don't want to ruin his moment. But I feel great about Tennessee's spot. I think that we're in a great spot there. And also from J. Pat saying that Savion hit the blackout on his visit 100%, and he's coming home to the good guys. Yeah. I think so too, man. And you know what? Moa did too. It seems like almost everybody that wore that black and orange jersey on their visit so far this year, I think that they all chose Tennessee. It might be 1 or 2, but for the most part, we've been batting like 1,000, very, very close to it. And Darius Gray. So Darius Gray sounds like that one. Sounds like maybe Tennessee's not in the absolute, greatest spot. Sounds like we're in a good spot, but, people don't feel overly confident there. I don't know necessarily. That one could go a lot of different ways. He took, I don't know what, like 7 or 8 OVs or something. So I don't know. I think it sounds like he wants to play SEC, so LSU, South Carolina, and then us. But LSU and South Carolina, that was his favorites early on. So really, I think him choosing a program earlier rather than waiting to the end of the season might not benefit Tennessee as much, but he could always change his mind, because if he chooses LSU, let's just say, I think that Brian Kelly gets fired. I think that South Carolina might take a little bit of a step back this season. If those things happen, does he really want to go play there? I mean, maybe not, right? So this right here is saying that Hound Dogs versus the Bulldogs. We got this one 100%. Love it. And no more goalposts. Yeah. Last time Georgia tore down goalposts was against Tennessee in 2000. Yeah, man. So it would feel good to be able to end that little streak. Proud of them catching up to Tennessee, because Tennessee beat Georgia 9 years in a row. Georgia right now is at 8. I never thought that I'd live to see that happen, y'all. but here we are. So if we could stop that streak and also stop the streak of us anytime that we beat a good team, we're tearing down goalposts and stuff. I think that Tennessee is graduated past that, and I, honestly feel. Well, and this is just me. If we do that, I'm not going to be mad. I don't think that there's nothing necessarily really wrong with it. I just don't want to do it because it's Georgia. But I think that Tennessee's about to get back to that championship caliber. If Coach Heupel has a good year this season with everything going on, I think that you got to mention him up there with, for sure. I mean, you got to put him at least top 3 in the whole country just as far as coaching, because no one thought that we could do it, but I think that Tennessee will do it. You know what I mean? Us as fans, I think that we're on board with it, but some of the national media members, they don't have a clue. Saying that Moa is a dog, I think that he might even be underrated as a low 5-star. That's a great point, brother, because I feel like that too. I think that he's ranked like number 31 with 24/7 Sports. He should be a top 10 guy. I mean, this is a player that can play offense, defense, special teams, and get significant playing time in any program in this entire country. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's that good. He's good enough that he could do it, right? I'm not saying that some teams might have some guys that are, they might have a couple of safeties or like a few wide receivers that are like first-round draft picks. He might not really see the field that much, but he's good enough that you wouldn't feel bad if you threw him out there. So, yeah, he's super great. Hoping that we can get him out of Utah. Sounds like his father might have gone to Utah, so it might be tough. But like some of the insiders said yesterday, if he was going to choose Utah, he had plenty of time where he just could have done it. So I think that he will end up choosing Tennessee. So this class can end up finishing really, really nice. I don't care what the ranking is. I think that just from what Tennessee needs, I think that we can finish in a great spot. And this one is saying that Heupel was ranked 2 on the site for best coaches. I saw the other day. Yeah, man. So I actually saw that too. And Sports Talk Jay, that's my dog. We most definitely rock with him. So anybody who hasn't checked out his channel, I'm sure that everyone has. You definitely need to check him out. That is a good man. But either way, yeah, I think that that's about where Heupel should be. I mean, if you think about what he's done, because most of the time people are just looking at these coaches and ranking them based off of their wins and losses and NFL draft picks. Well, if you look at Kirby Smart, I mean, how many 5-stars do you need to be able to win a daggum national championship? If you're taking 5 stars that people are saying, well, these guys should be first-round draft picks, and then, they turn into first-round draft picks, what did you really do as a coach except not totally mess it up, right? I mean, Coach Heupel is really taking some guys that weren't very highly touted coming out of high school, which just goes to show that, he understood how to go find talent, but then he also knows how to put them in the best spots. And not just Hype, but the whole staff. They understand how to put these guys in the best spots to be able to go win ball games, right? So that's what I'm really looking forward to for this year. But if you look at it that way, yeah, I mean, Hype's got to be way up there, man. Like way, way, way up there. Since he's pretty much been here, 2022, really could have and probably should have made it to the college football playoffs. We all know that Hendon Hooker ends up getting hurt. We have a really bad game versus South Carolina. He also should have won the Heisman. So he has a team that should have gone to the college football playoffs, that should have won the Heisman Trophy in his second year, a program that was pretty much like left for dead, right? I mean, that's huge. 2023, Tennessee was kind of close. We had a couple of mishaps, but we were kind of close to it. 2024, we obviously make it. 2025, it's going to be the same thing. So he hasn't had a top 10 class yet. I mean, come on, give this man his flowers. He's doing a great job with the on-the-field coaching. All right, let's see what else we got. Saying that the great athletes don't come out of Florida, Georgia, or Texas, usually underrated. Moa is a star. Yeah, I understand what you're saying there, but I will also say this, that let me make sure that I'm reading it right. So you're saying that the great athletes don't come out of Florida, Georgia, or Texas, usually underrated. Yeah, I mean, I would have to kind of maybe disagree, but I think I know where you're going with it. And the only reason that I say that is just because there are so many people, there's so many players just in this state of Georgia that people probably have never even heard about that are like lower level 3-stars that are super talented. It's just not enough. These analysts and stuff, they can't watch everybody's film. How many thousands of players is it out there? So I think that with the states that are super deep with the talent, I think players can get overlooked more. But yes, Utah, I understand what you're saying, because Utah, they might not have, like, the competition level isn't super great. So those guys, like their top guys, will be more underrated from that standpoint. I think that is an excellent point too. All right, let me get to some more. Saying that, boy, you should do a show with Sports Talk Jay or with Kangaroo Black from Bama? Yeah, so I mean, Sports Talk Jay and I, we have done some shows, and actually, I think that it's probably like past due for us to do one. So maybe I'll try to reach out to him and see if we can get something going with that. I don't know Kangaroo Black. I've seen his show sometimes. I think that he does great too. But yeah, that would be fun to do some crossover stuff. I think that that's a great thought. Saying that he did it on his past teams as well. I'm not sure what that goes to, but elite coach for sure, 100%. Yeah, got one going with Kangaroo Black and Jay. Yeah, man. So saying that the offensive players should stay away from Kirby. Todd Monken is gone 100%. Hey, facts, bro, preach. And if Bobo is a joke, he really is. I hope that they keep him forever. I do too. That's the one thing that's probably really holding him back in a major way. But if they don't do well this season, then Bobo's probably gone for like the next 10, 15 years, and then he'll be right back at UGA because he can't, that's where he played at. He loves Georgia. And Bobo's actually not a bad guy. Kirby is, but Bobo's not a bad guy. So Moe and Wyatt as safeties gives Tennessee a serious no-fly zone. That's a fact. I think that our safety room is really, if you look at just this class for 2026, right, we were so worried about it early on. We said, man, Tennessee, if we could land maybe 3, 4, 5 good-looking safeties, I mean, wouldn't that be something special? Tennessee's really on the verge of doing that, right? So I think that that speaks volumes about what this team can do whenever they find out, hey, we've got some needs here. Let's just finish strong with it. But that's going to do it, though, y'all. I know that this one's run for a long time, but thank you so much for joining us. Y'all, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We'll be coming back to probably Patreon later on today and maybe having some thoughts on what some of the other players thought or, said. So if y'all would like to join us there, please do. It's patreon.com/Bluechip Breakdown. But let's get to these last couple of ones. Wyatt has that Sean Taylor size. Yeah, shoot, he's taller than Sean Taylor. I think that Sean Taylor was he 6'3", about like 220, something like that. I would say the Wyatt's got more like Taylor May's size, where Taylor May's was 6'4", and I think he played at like 240, around a 4'2", 440. That's dangerous, okay? That is really, really dangerous. And J-Pat saying Wyatt on Visit, rocking that 14. Yeah, man, EB, you already know. Gotta love it. But anyway, though, y'all, we'll be coming back to Patreon later on, and we might come back to YouTube as well. But thank you